Hi, Love Lies Diaries family. Welcome back, and if this is your first time here, welcome home. I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Because today, we're flipping the script. This time, I'm sharing a story from a man's perspective. A man who gave his heart to the wrong woman. A man who discovered betrayal and delivered the most unexpected payback. My name is Derek, and this is the story of how my wife faked a pregnancy so I switched her ultrasound. But before we dive into the chaos, let me paint you a picture of how it all began. Wait. Please and please, remember to subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified on our new stories.
I met Tasha at St. Matthew's Community Center on a sweltering Saturday in July. I was there reluctantly. My sister Maya had guilt-tripped me into volunteering for their summer food drive. "You spend too much time in front of computers," she'd said. "Go meet some real people for once." I was stacking canned goods when I heard this laugh. Rich, infectious, the kind that made you want to smile even before you knew what was funny. I turned around, and there she was, Tasha Williams, though I didn't know her name yet. She was organizing volunteers with this natural ease, her hands animated as she spoke, her eyes bright with genuine joy. She was beautiful, sure, smooth dark skin, natural hair pulled back in a colorful head wrap, curves that filled out her volunteer t-shirt perfectly. But it was her energy that caught me. She made everyone feel important, remembered everyone's name after hearing it once, and somehow made sorting donations feel like a party. "You must be Maya's brother," she said, appearing beside me with a clipboard and that $1,000,000 smile. "She talks about you all the time. Says you're some kind of computer genius." I nearly dropped a can of green beans. "Derek," I managed, extending my hand, and I wouldn't say genius, more like enthusiastic amateur. She laughed again, and I swear the temperature in that stuffy community center dropped 10 degrees. "Well, Derek the enthusiastic amateur, think you can handle the cereal aisle? It's a real technical challenge." That was Tasha, warm, playful, with this way of making you feel like you were in on some private joke. By the end of that day, she'd got my number under the pretense of coordinating future volunteer schedules. 3 days later, she texted asking if I wanted to grab coffee and discuss community service strategies. I knew it was just an excuse. She knew I knew. We went anyway. Our first real date was at this little Ethiopian place downtown. I'd never had Ethiopian food, but Tasha insisted it was an experience. She was right. Watching her explain how to eat with injera bread, seeing her eyes light up when she talked about her grandmother's recipes, listening to her stories about growing up in a big family where Sunday dinners were sacred, I was completely captivated. "Tell me about you," she said, leaning forward with her chin propped on her hands. "Maya says you're mysterious." "Mysterious is a generous word for boring," I said. "I fix computers, I read too much sci-fi, and I have strong opinions about coffee brewing methods." "Coffee opinions? Now we're getting somewhere." She grinned. "French press or pour over?" "Pour over. Obviously." "Obviously," she repeated, mock serious. And what else should I know about the enigmatic Derek Thompson? I found myself opening up in ways I rarely did. I told her about losing my parents in a car accident when I was 22, how Maya basically raised me even though she was only 3 years older. I told her about my struggles with anxiety, how I preferred small groups to crowds, how I'd rather have deep conversations than small talk. "That's not boring," she said softly. "That's real." That night, she kissed me outside her apartment. Soft, tentative at first, then with growing confidence when I kissed her back. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "I have a good feeling about you, Derek Thompson," she whispered. I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. We were together constantly after that. Tasha had this way of pulling me out of my shell without making me feel exposed. She dragged me to church functions, neighborhood barbecues, her family's legendary Sunday dinners. Her parents, Robert and Diane, welcomed me like I'd always been part of the family. "That girl's been waiting for someone like you," her mother told me one Sunday while we washed dishes. "Someone who sees her heart, not just her smile." I thought I did see her heart. She was passionate about everything. Her job as an elementary school counselor, her volunteer work, Her family, me. She'd text me random thoughts throughout the day. Saw a dog that looked exactly like what I think our future dog should look like. Or, student told me today that feelings are like weather. They change, but they're still real. Made me think of you. When I was overwhelmed with a big project at work, she'd show up with takeout and sit quietly while I coded, just being present. When she had a tough day with a troubled kid at school, I'd listen for hours as she worked through strategies to help them. We fit, or I thought we did. After 18 months, I started looking at rings. After 2 years, I proposed. It was Christmas Eve at her parents' house. The whole Williams clan was there. 3 generations crammed into that warm, loud house that smelled like ham and sweet potato pie. I'd planned an elaborate proposal at a fancy restaurant. But sitting there watching Tasha help her 6-year-old nephew with a puzzle, seeing her laugh at her grandfather's terrible jokes, I knew this was a moment. I got down on one knee right there in the living room, in front of everyone. Tasha Marie Williams. I said, my voice shaking only a little, you make everything better just by being in it. Will you marry me? The room erupted. Tasha cried. Happy tears. I thought. Her mother screamed. Her father clapped me on the back, so hard I nearly face-planted into the Christmas tree. Yes, Tasha whispered, throwing her arms around my neck. Yes, obviously yes. We married 8 months later at St. Matthew's, the same church where we'd met. It was perfect. Tasha in a dress that made her look like she was glowing from within, our families and friends packed into those wooden pews, Pastor Jenkins beaming as he pronounced us husband and wife. You may kiss your bride, he said, and when I lifted that veil and saw Tasha's face, radiant, tearful, looking at me like I'd hung the moon, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. Our honeymoon in Jamaica was everything I dreamed. We talked about buying a house, about kids, about growing old together. Tasha wanted 3 children. I wanted whatever made her happy. We're going to be so happy, she murmured one night as we lay on the beach, her head on my chest, my fingers in her hair. We already are, I said. That first year of marriage was golden. We bought a little house in Decatur with a big backyard and 2 bedrooms, one for us, one for future little Thompsons, as Tasha called them. We painted walls, planted a garden, hosted dinner parties. Tasha would curl up against me on Sunday mornings and plan our whole future. But somewhere around our first anniversary, things began to shift. It started small. Tasha working late more often. Weekend professional development. Seminars I'd never heard of. She'd come home tired, distracted, like she was somewhere else even when she was sitting right next to me. Everything okay? I'd ask. Just work stress, she'd say, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. The woman who used to text me constantly started going hours without responding. When she did text back, the messages were short, distracted. The passionate conversations about our future became practical discussions about bills and schedules. In bed, she turned away more often than not. When I tried to initiate intimacy, she claimed she was tired, stressed, just not in mood lately. Maybe we should talk to someone, I suggested one night after another rejected advance. A counselor or something. There's nothing to talk about, she snapped. Can a woman be tired without it being a federal case? That stung. The old Tasha would have apologized immediately for snapping. This Tasha just rolled over and went to sleep. I told myself it was normal. Marriage was work. People went through phases. But the Tasha I'd fallen in love with, the one who laughed easily and touched my arm when she talked and made me feel like the center of her universe, was disappearing bit by bit. Then came the phone calls. Always when I wasn't around, or so she thought. I'd catch her talking quietly in the kitchen, her voice soft and intimate in a way it hadn't been with me in months. When I'd walk in, she'd quickly end the call. Who was that? I'd ask. Work, she'd say. Just coordinating tomorrow's schedule. But who coordinated work schedules at 9 p.m. on a Sunday? The final straw came on a Wednesday night in March. I was working late, but I finished earlier than expected and decided to surprise Tasha with takeout from her favorite Thai place. When I pulled into our driveway, her car wasn't there. I called her. No answer. I texted, "Hey, where are you?" Brought dinner home. 20 minutes later, Sorry, got caught up at work. 8 already. Be home late. I drove past her school. The parking lot was empty, except for the security guard's car. That night, when she came home at nearly 11 p.m., I was waiting in the living room. How was work? I asked carefully. Long day. Really long. I'm exhausted. She avoided my eyes, heading straight for the stairs. I'm going to shower and go to bed. Tasha. My voice stopped her on the third step. We need to talk. She turned around, and for just a second, I saw something in her face. Guilt? Fear? But it was gone so quickly, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Can it wait until tomorrow? I'm really tired. It's always tomorrow with you lately. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're never here anymore. Even when you're here, you're not really here. It means I feel like I'm married to a stranger. Her face softened slightly. I'm sorry. You're right. Work has been crazy, and I've been bringing that stress home. That's not fair to you. She came back down the stairs and kissed my cheek. A dry, perfunctory kiss that felt more like an obligation than affection. Tomorrow, she promised. We'll talk tomorrow. Plan a date night or something. Tomorrow never came. Things got worse over the next few weeks. Tasha became more secretive, more distant. She started taking her phone with her everywhere, to the bathroom, to get a glass of water, even to check the mail. She changed her passwords on everything. I was losing my mind. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd planned my whole future around, was becoming someone I didn't recognize. And when I tried to address it, she made me feel like the problem. You're being paranoid, she'd say. Can't I have any privacy? Why do you need to monitor my every move? I'm not monitoring anything. I'm trying to connect with my wife. By interrogating me about every phone call and text message, it was gaslighting at its finest, though I didn't have a name for it then. I just knew I was going crazy, and she was making me feel like it was all in my head. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Friday in April. Tasha had claimed another work retreat. This one supposedly in Athens. Wouldn't be back until Sunday night. I'd spent the evening alone, trying to distract myself with Netflix and takeout Chinese food. Around 2 a.m., I heard her phone buzzing from the nightstand. She'd forgotten it. The first time in weeks she'd gone anywhere without it practically surgically attached to her hand. I stared at that phone for 20 minutes, wrestling with myself. I wasn't the kind of person who snooped. I believed in trust and privacy, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. But I also wasn't stupid. The buzzing was persistent, text after text lighting up the screen. Finally, I picked it up. The messages were from someone named Marcus. The preview text made my blood freeze. Missing you already, baby. Can't wait until you're free. My hand was shaking as I unlocked her phone. Thank God she'd never changed the passcode. Our anniversary. What I found destroyed me. Months of messages. Photos. Voice notes. A complete emotional and physical affair, laid out in excruciating detail. Marcus telling her how beautiful she was, how much better she deserved than that boring computer nerd. Tasha responding with heart emojis, and promises to leave me soon. Pictures of them together. Intimate photos I will never be able to unsee. Plans for a future that didn't include me. Talk about apartments they'd looked at, vacations they wanted to take, how they'd handle the divorce. And then the knockout punch, a message from 2 weeks ago. Tasha telling Marcus she might be pregnant. His excited response about finally having a reason to make this official. Her reply, I'm not sure if it's yours or his, but either way, this could be our ticket out. I sat in that dark bedroom, reading those words over and over until they burned themselves into my brain. The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered to the floor. My wife was having an affair. She was pregnant, maybe, and she was planning to use either scenario to destroy our marriage while painting herself as the victim. I don't remember much about the rest of that night. I think I threw up. I know I cried. Ugly, silent sobs that shook my whole body. I remember sitting on our bathroom floor, staring at the tiles we'd picked out together, wondering how I'd been so blind. When the sun came up, something had shifted in me. The devastation was still there, but underneath it was something else. Something colder. Determination. Tasha came home Sunday night with her usual post-dash retreat routine, tired, distant, claiming she needed a shower and decompress. She didn't even notice that her phone had never left the nightstand. How was the retreat? I asked, my voice remarkably steady. Good. Productive. You know how these things are. She barely looked at me, already heading for the stairs. Learn anything interesting? The usual. New techniques for dealing with difficult situations. The irony was completely lost on her. I watched her go upstairs, this woman I'd loved so completely, and felt nothing but disgust, not just for her betrayal, but for how easily she lied, how casually she dismissed me, how little I apparently meant to her. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I became the husband she remembered, attentive, caring, interested in her day, her work, her feelings. If she noticed a change, she didn't show it. Maybe she was relieved that I'd stopped asking uncomfortable questions. 2 weeks later, she made her announcement. It was a Tuesday evening. I was making dinner, her favorite, chicken and dumplings, when she walked into the kitchen with this strange expression on her face. "Derek," she said, her voice oddly formal, "I have something to tell you." I turned from the stove, wooden spoon still in my hand, and waited. I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd been expecting them. I dropped the spoon. Pregnant. I repeated. She nodded, and I saw her watching my face carefully. About 6 weeks, I think. 6 weeks. The timeline from her messages with Marcus. That's... I swallowed hard, forced myself to smile. That's incredible. We're going to be parents. We're going to be parents, she confirmed, but her smile looked strained. I crossed the kitchen and pulled her into a hug. She felt stiff in my arms, like she was enduring my touch rather than welcoming it. "I can't believe it," I whispered into her hair. "Our own little family." "Yeah," she said quietly. "Our family." That night, she let me hold her for the first time in months. As she drifted off to sleep, I stared at the ceiling and planned my next move. Over the next few weeks, Tasha's behavior became even stranger. She was protective of her pregnancy in ways that didn't make sense, refusing to let me come to doctor's appointments, claiming she needed space to process, getting defensive when I asked basic questions about her symptoms or her doctor's advice. "I just want to be involved," I said after she shut down another attempt to discuss baby names. "This is our child, too." "Of course it is," she snapped, "but I'm the one carrying it. I'm the one dealing with morning sickness and exhaustion and all the changes. Can't I have some control over my own pregnancy?" She was right, to a point, but her secrecy felt deliberate, calculated, like she was hiding something beyond just an affair I already knew about. I started paying closer attention. The morning sickness she claimed was happening during hours when I wasn't around. The doctor's appointments that somehow never appeared on our shared calendar. The prenatal vitamins I never saw her take. One evening, I found an ultrasound photo tucked into her purse while looking for her insurance card. My heart stopped. There it was. Proof that she was really pregnant. A tiny white blob against a dark background, with measurements and dates printed along the side. But something felt off about it. The paper was different from other medical documents I'd seen. The formatting looked slightly wrong. And the date? I photographed it quickly and put it back, my mind racing. That weekend, while Tasha was at another mysterious appointment. I did some research. I called different medical offices, asking about ultrasound procedures, document formatting, typical timelines for first appointments. What I learned made my blood run cold. The ultrasound in Tasha's purse didn't match the standard format for any major clinic in our area. The measurements were inconsistent. And most damning of all, the date stamp indicated she was already 12 weeks along, not 6 like she'd told me. Either she'd been lying about how far along she was, or the ultrasound was fake. Given everything else I knew about her recent behavior, I was betting on fake. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. James Park had been my roommate in college and was now a radiology technician at a private imaging center across town. We'd stayed close over the years. He'd been at my wedding. I'd been the best man at his. If anyone could help me figure out what was really going on, it was him. You want me to what? James said when I explained the situation. We were sitting in his living room, his wife, Sarah, having tactfully disappeared upstairs when I'd asked to speak to him privately. I need to know if this ultrasound is real, I said, showing him the photo I'd taken. And if it's not, I need your help with something. James studied the image on my phone, his expression growing more serious by the minute. Derek, man, this doesn't look right. The formatting is off, the measurements don't match the gestational age, and this clinic logo, I've never seen it before. So it's fake? I'd bet money on it. This looks like something someone ordered online. You can get fake ultrasounds for gender reveal pranks, movie props, all kinds of things. He looked up at me. What exactly are you thinking of doing? I told him everything. The affair, the messages, the suspicious behavior, my growing certainty that Tasha was playing a long con. James listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions. That's ice cold, man, he said when I finished. But I get it. She's trying to manipulate you with a fake pregnancy while she plans her exit strategy. That's sociopathic. Will you help me? James was quiet for a long time. Finally, he sighed. What do you need? A replacement ultrasound. Same format as the fake one, but with some modifications. What kind of modifications? I pulled out my phone and showed him the notes I'd made. I want the dates to be obviously wrong. Like, conception would have had to happen when we weren't even together. And I want some kind of medical flag that would require follow-up. James studied my notes. I can do that. Make it look like there are viability concerns, questionable dating, need for additional testing. It'll be authentic looking, but alarming enough to cause panic. How long would it take? Give me 3 days. And Derek, he looked at me seriously. Are you sure about this? Once you go down this road, there's no going back. I thought about Tasha lying to my face every day, about her planning a future with another man while sleeping in the bed we'd shared as husband and wife, about her using a fake pregnancy to manipulate me while she plotted her escape. I'm sure, I said. 3 days later, James met me at a coffee shop downtown during his lunch break. He slid a manila envelope across the table. One modified ultrasound as requested. He said quietly, same dimensions as the original, same basic layout, but with your requested changes. The gestational dating makes it clear conception happened at least 2 weeks before your last confirmed encounter. And there's a subtle flag about viability concerns that would definitely trigger follow-up appointments. I opened the envelope and examined the document. It was perfect, professional, authentic looking, but damning. The watermark is the real genius touch, James continued. It says questionable viability. Requires follow-up in faint text that most people would miss at first glance, but becomes obvious once you're looking for it. Thank you, I said, meaning it. I owe you. Just promise me you'll be careful. What she did to you is unforgivable, but make sure you're not doing anything that could come back to bite you legally. That evening, while Tasha was in the shower, I made the switch. Her purse was sitting on our dresser, the fake ultrasound tucked into the same side pocket where I found before. My hands were surprisingly steady as I removed the original and replaced it with James's version. The papers looked nearly identical at first glance. Same size, same general layout, same baby-shaped blob in the center. But the devil was in the details. I took one last look at the original fake ultrasound before sliding it into my own pocket. Evidence, proof of her deception that I could use when the time came. Then I went downstairs and waited. It took exactly 4 days for Tasha to discover the switched ultrasound. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when I heard her scream from upstairs. Not a startled yelp or a frustrated shout. A genuine scream of panic and horror. "Derek," she called, her voice shaking. "Derek, come here." I took my time walking upstairs, even though my heart was pounding. I found her sitting on our bed, the modified ultrasound in her hands, tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong?" I asked the picture-concerned husband. "Something's wrong with the baby," she sobbed. "Look at this. The clinic says there are problems with viability, and the dates don't make sense." I sat down beside her and took the ultrasound, pretending to study it for the first time. What do you mean the dates don't make sense? According to this, I would have gotten pregnant in January, but we hadn't been intimate in weeks around that time because of my work stress, remember? I did remember. That was when her affair with Marcus had been heating up, when she'd been pulling away from me physically and emotionally. Maybe there's a mistake. I said carefully, medical dating isn't always exact, right? And this watermark, she continued, pointing at the faint text James had added, questionable viability, requires follow-up. What does that mean? I don't know, baby, but we'll figure it out. When's your next appointment? I don't have one scheduled. I was going to wait until the second trimester to establish care with an OB. Another lie. If she'd really been pregnant, she would have had multiple appointments by now. Well, we need to get you seen right away, I said, rubbing her back at what I hoped looked like supportive comfort. This is scary, but we'll handle it together. She leaned into me, still crying. What if something's really wrong? What if we lose the baby? The irony was staggering. She was genuinely panicked about losing a baby that didn't exist, while carrying on an affair that was destroying our real marriage. Don't think like that, I said. We'll call first thing Monday morning and get you seen. Whatever this is, we'll deal with it. That weekend was torture. Tasha was an emotional wreck, constantly studying the ultrasound, Googling pregnancy complications, calling in sick to work. She clung to me in a way she hadn't in months, as if I could somehow protect her from the consequences of her own deception. I played my role perfectly. Concerned husband, supportive partner, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Meanwhile, I was quietly documenting everything. Her behavior, her lies, her continued secret communication with Marcus that she thought I didn't know about. On Sunday night, as she lay in my arms crying about the uncertainty, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The trap was closing. Monday morning, Tasha claimed she was calling to schedule an emergency appointment. I listened from the kitchen as she had what sounded like a conversation with a medical office, her voice increasingly frantic. They can't see me until Friday, she told me, hanging up the phone. They said unless I'm bleeding or having severe pain, it's not considered urgent. Another lie. She hadn't called anyone. The next few days were a masterclass in manipulation. Tasha was suddenly the devoted wife again, cooking my favorite meals, asking about my work, curling up next to me on the couch like she had in our early days. I know I've been distant lately, she said Wednesday night, her head on my chest as we watched TV. Work stress, pregnancy hormones. I haven't been fair to you. We're both adjusting, I replied, stroking her hair. This is new territory for both of us. I love you, she whispered. I know I don't say it enough anymore, but I do. You're going to be such a good father. The words should have melted my heart. Once upon a time, they would have. Now they just made me feel sick. Thursday night, she started complaining of cramps. Maybe we should go to the emergency room, I suggested. No, it's probably normal. Let me see how I feel in the morning. Friday morning, she woke me up crying. I'm bleeding, she said. I think I'm losing the baby. I held her as she sobbed, making appropriate sound of comfort and concern, while she described symptoms that sounded surprisingly textbook for early miscarriage. She'd done her research. We should go to the hospital, I said. No, she said quickly. I already called my doctor. She said if the bleeding isn't too heavy, I can wait out at home. Going to the ER would just be traumatic and expensive. Of course, because a real medical examination would expose the whole charade. I called in sick to work to take care of her, brought her soup, held her while she cried, listened to her talk about the future we'd lost. I wanted this baby so much, she whispered. I know the timing wasn't perfect, but I was starting to imagine our little family. I know, I said. I wanted it too. And the terrible thing was, part of me had, even knowing what I knew, part of me had still hoped there was some explanation, some way that everything could work out. That evening, she showed me the evidence, toilet paper with what looked like blood, but which could have been anything. More theater in a performance I was growing tired of watching. It's over, she said, collapsing into my arms. Our baby is gone. I held my grieving wife and felt nothing but contempt. The week following Tasha's fake miscarriage was surreal. She threw herself into the role of grieving mother with Oscar-worthy commitment. She took time off work, spent hours looking at baby names we'd supposedly been considering, cried at commercials featuring families. "I know it's silly," she said one evening, clutching a pregnancy book she'd apparently bought. But I'd already started planning everything. The nursery, baby names, how we'd tell our families. "It's not silly," I assured her. Grief is grief. She seemed genuinely surprised by my compassion. The old Derek, the one who'd been married to a woman he trusted, would have been devastated alongside her. This new Derek was just gathering more evidence of her sociopathy. Because that's what this was. To fake a pregnancy was manipulative. To fake a miscarriage when you knew your husband desperately wanted children, it was pure evil. During this time, I was busy behind the scenes. I consulted with a divorce attorney, started organizing our finances, and most importantly, started gathering evidence of Tasha's affair. Her phone was still a fortress, but she'd gotten sloppy in other ways. She left her laptop open while showering, and I had managed to access her email account. What I found there was even more damning than the text messages. Hotel receipts for nights when she claimed to be at work retreats. But the hotels were local, not out of town. Credit card statements showing purchases at intimate restaurants where she'd never taken me. Photos stored in her cloud account that made it clear the affair had been going on for nearly 8 months. But the smoking gun was an email thread between Tasha and Marcus discussing their timeline for her leaving me. They'd planned a fake pregnancy as a way to either trap me into staying, if I was the type to fight for my family, or to create drama that would justify her leaving, if I didn't respond the way she wanted. The fake miscarriage was supposed to be the final act, a tragedy that would either bind us together through shared grief or drive us apart through shared trauma. Either way, she'd come out looking like the victim. It was calculated, cold, and completely heartless. 2 weeks after the fake miscarriage, Tasha made her next move. "I think we need some time apart," she said over breakfast, not meeting my eyes. This whole experience, losing the baby, it's made me realize we have problems we haven't addressed. What kind of problems? I asked, though I knew exactly where this was heading. We've grown apart. We want different things. I feel like we got married too young, before we really knew who we were as individuals. Classic pre-divorce script. Create distance. Blame fundamental incompatibilities. Make it seem like a mutual recognition rather than betrayal. "I love you," she continued, and I almost believe she meant it. But I don't know if love is enough anymore. I need space to figure out who I am, what I want from life. And you think separating will help us figure that out? I think it's our only chance. Otherwise, we're just going to keep hurting each other. I nodded slowly, as if considering this for the first time. "Where would you go?" "I found a small apartment across town. Month-to-month lease, nothing permanent. Just until we figure things out." Of course she had. Probably the same apartment she and Marcus had been looking at months ago. "If you think that's what we need," I said quietly, "I want us to work, Tasha. But if you need space..." She looked almost surprised by my acquiescence. Maybe she'd expected me to fight harder, to beg her to stay. "It's just temporary," she assured me. "We can still talk, still work on things. This isn't giving up." But we both knew it was. That weekend, I helped her pack. Watched her carefully select which clothes to take, which photos to leave behind, which books mattered enough to transport to her new life. She was taking the jewelry I'd given her, but leaving our wedding photos. Taking her favorite coffee mug, but leaving the matching set we bought on our honeymoon. Small choices that revealed everything about her priorities. "This is hard," she said as we loaded boxes into her car. "But I think it's right." "I hope so," I replied. She hugged me goodbye. A long, tight hug that felt like an ending. "I'll call you in a few days once I get settled," she promised. "Take care of yourself," I said. I watched her drive away, and for the first time in months, I felt peace. Phase 1 was complete. With Tasha out of the house, I finally had the freedom to conduct a thorough investigation. I spent the first evening going through everything she left behind with forensic precision. In her jewelry box, I found a second phone, an old iPhone she thought I didn't know about. It was password protected, but I remembered her telling me once that she used the same password for everything because she was terrible with numbers. Our anniversary date worked on the third try. What I found made my stomach turn. This wasn't just an affair. This was a complete double life. Photos, videos, voice messages spanning back almost a year. Evidence of overnight trips that corresponded exactly with her claimed work retreats. Screenshots of apartment listings, furniture shopping, even conversations about wedding rings. Marcus apparently wanted to propose once a divorce was finalized. But the most damaging evidence was a series of voice messages between Tasha and her best friend, Kenya. Messages where Tasha laid out her entire strategy. "I can't just leave him out of nowhere," Tasha's voice said from the phone speaker. "People would ask questions. But if I'm pregnant and then something tragic happens, everyone would understand why our marriage couldn't survive that kind of loss." Kenya's response chilled me to the bone. "Girl, you are cold. But honestly, after dealing with his boring ass for 3 years, you deserve some happiness. Just be careful with the timing." "The pregnancy thing buys me time to get everything set up," Tasha continued. "Marcus found us the perfect apartment, and I've been moving my stuff little by little. By the time I lose the baby, I'll be ready to make a clean break." "And he'll be too devastated to ask too many questions," Kenya added. "Plus, you'll look like the grieving wife who tried to save her marriage but just couldn't get past the trauma. You come out smelling like roses." They laughed. Actually laughed about manipulating my grief to cover her betrayal. I sat in our bedroom, my bedroom now, listening to my wife plot my emotional destruction with her best friend, and something fundamental shifted inside me. Whatever love or hurt or hope I'd been clinging to died in that moment. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about justice. Over the next week, I methodically documented everything. I made copies of every photo, every message, every email. I backed up the voice recordings to multiple cloud accounts. I printed bank statements showing suspicious transactions, hotel receipts, restaurant bills. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Patricia Reeves, who came highly recommended by my divorce attorney. She was ex-police, thorough, and completely unsympathetic to cheating spouses. "I've seen a lot of affairs," Patricia told me during our first meeting, "but this level of premeditation is unusual. Most people cheat impulsively. Your wife planned this like a military operation. Can you help me prove it?" "Honey, you've already proven it. What you need now is to prove it in a way that holds up in court and protects you financially." Patricia's investigation revealed even more damaging information. Marcus wasn't just some random guy Tasha had met. He was a married father, too, whose wife had no idea about the affair. He was also Tasha's supervisor at the school district, which made their relationship a violation of professional ethics policies. "This gives us leverage," Patricia explained. "If they want to avoid public scandal, they'll be motivated to settle quickly and quietly." But I wasn't interested in quick and quiet. I wanted the truth to come out. I wanted everyone who believed Tasha's performance to know exactly what kind of person she really was. "I understand the impulse," Patricia said carefully, "but think about what you really want out of this. Do you want revenge, or do you want to rebuild your life? Can I have both?" She smiled grimly. "Maybe. Let's see how this plays out." Meanwhile, Tasha was keeping up her end of the charade. She called every few days. Her voice carefully modulated to sound like a woman struggling with grief and marital uncertainty. "How are you doing?" she'd ask. "I know this is hard on you, too." "I'm managing," I'd reply, just trying to process everything. "I think about the baby every day," she'd say. "About what could have been." "Me too," I'd lie. These conversations were torture, but they were also opportunities. I recorded every one, building a library of her lies for future use. During one particularly manipulative call, she suggested we try couples counseling. "I've been thinking," she said, "maybe we gave up too easily. Maybe if we had professional help processing our grief." "You think that would help?" "I don't know, but maybe we owe it to ourselves and to the baby we lost to try everything." The baby we lost. She said it with such conviction, such apparent pain. that if I had known the truth, I would have been completely convinced. "I'm willing to try if you are," I said. "Really? You'd be open to counseling?" "Tasha, I love you. I've always loved you. If there's a chance we can work through this." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was thick with what sounded like genuine emotion. "I love you too, Derek. I know I haven't shown it lately, but I do. I'm so confused about everything right now." "Take all the time you need," I said. "I'll be here." Another lie to match hers. Tasha suggested a marriage counselor named Dr. Martinez, who supposedly specialized in couples dealing with pregnancy loss. I agreed immediately, which seemed to surprise her. "You're really willing to do this?" she asked during our next call. "Of course. If it helps us heal and figure out our marriage, I'm all in." What Tasha didn't know was that Dr. Martinez didn't exist. I'd hired an actor's friend of James's to play the role. Someone who could help me gather even more evidence of Tasha's deception while making her think she was manipulating the narrative. Our first counseling session was scheduled for a Thursday evening at a small office space I'd rented for the purpose. I'd had it decorated to look like a therapist's office. Diplomas on the walls, comfortable chairs, soft lighting, boxes of tissue strategically placed. Tasha arrived looking nervous but determined. She dressed carefully, conservative but flattering, the picture of a grieving wife trying to save her marriage. Dr. Martinez, whose real name was Rachel Torres, a struggling actress who was thrilled to earn $500 for a few hours of improv, played her role perfectly. "I want you both to know that this is a safe space," Rachel said in a soothing therapist voice. "We're here to process your grief and examine how it's affecting your relationship." For the next hour, I watched Tasha deliver an Academy Award-worthy performance. She talked about the joy of discovering she was pregnant, the devastation of miscarriage, the way grief had created distance between us. "I know I've been pulling away," she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "But losing the baby, it made me question everything. Whether I'm ready to be a mother, whether our marriage is strong enough to handle that kind of tragedy." "Those are normal feelings," Rachel assured her. "Pregnancy loss can be incredibly traumatic for both partners." "I just feel like I failed," Tasha continued. "Failed as a wife, as a woman, as a potential mother. And I've been taking that out on Derek, which isn't fair. I played my part too, expressing my own grief and confusion, talking about feeling helpless and shut out. I want to support her," I said, "but I don't know how. She won't talk to me about what happened, won't let me be part of processing this loss." "Communication is crucial," Rachel said, making notes on her fake clipboard. "Tasha, what do you need from Derek right now?" "Time," Tasha said immediately. "Space to grieve without feeling pressured to be okay. And patience. I know I'm not being the wife he deserves right now." "And Derek, what do you need from Tasha?" "Honesty," I said, looking directly at my wife. "I need to know where we stand. Are we working toward rebuilding our marriage, or are we just delaying the inevitable?" Tasha reached over and took my hand. The first time she'd touched me voluntarily in months. "I want to rebuild," she said. "I'm just scared. What if we can't get past this? What if every time we try to move forward, all we think about is what we lost?" It was a masterful performance. If I hadn't known she was lying about everything, I would have been completely taken in by her vulnerability and apparent commitment to our marriage. We scheduled 3 more sessions. Each one gave me more insight into how Tasha's mind worked, how she justified her actions to herself, how comfortable she was manipulating even supposedly neutral professionals. By the 4th session, she was talking about wanting to try for another baby someday when we were both healed enough to handle that risk again. The audacity was breathtaking. While Tasha was playing grieving wife in fake counseling sessions, Patricia was busy setting up the final phase of our plan. She'd managed to get photos of Tasha and Marcus together at her apartment, including some very intimate shots taken through a window they'd apparently forgotten wasn't completely private. More damning, she'd recorded them discussing their timeline for going public with their relationship. "Another month or 2 of this counseling bullshit, then I'll tell him it's not working," Tasha's voice said on the recording. "That we tried our best, but some things can't be fixed. And then we can finally be together," Marcus replied. Finally, I'm so tired of pretending to grieve a baby that never existed. They laughed about my pain, my hope, my efforts to save our marriage. That recording was the final piece I needed. I called Tasha and asked her to come to the house for dinner. I've been doing a lot of thinking, I said, and there are some things we need to discuss. She arrived looking cautiously optimistic, probably thinking I was ready to make some grand gesture of reconciliation. The house feels so empty without you, I said, which was true, though not in the way she assumed. I've missed it too, she replied, looking around at the home we built together. Missed us? Sit down, I said. Please. We settled on the couch, the same couch where we'd planned our future, where I proposed marriage, where she'd told me she was pregnant. Tasha, I began, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. She nodded, her expression serious. Is there someone else? The question hung in the air between us. I watched her face carefully, saw the microsecond of panic before her expression shifted to hurt confusion. Someone else? Derek, what are you talking about? I mean exactly what I said. Are you seeing someone else? How can you even ask me that? We're in counseling. We're trying to work through our problems. And you think I'm cheating? I'm asking because I need to know where I stand. If there's someone else, if you've moved on emotionally, then we're wasting our time pretending we can fix this. She moved closer to me on the couch, taking my hands in hers. There's no one else, she said, looking directly into my eyes. You're the only man I've ever loved. The only man I want to love. The lie came so easily, so convincingly, that I almost admired her skill. Are you sure? I pressed, because if I find out later that you've been lying to me... I'm not lying, she said firmly. Derek, I know I've been distant. I know I've hurt you, but I would never cheat. That's not who I am. I studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, I said, I believe you. Her relief was visible. Good. Because the last thing our marriage needs right now is false accusations and paranoia. You're right. I agreed. Trust is everything. We had dinner. Takeout from the Thai place where we'd had our first date. We talked about neutral topics, shared a bottle of wine, almost pretended we were a normal couple working through a rough patch. After dinner, as she was getting ready to leave, I handed her an envelope. What's this? She asked. Something I should have given you a long time ago, I said. She opened it curiously, then went very still as she saw what was inside. Photos of her and Marcus, printouts of their text messages, bank statements showing their secret expenditures, the voice recording transcripts where they discussed their plans. And at the very bottom, the original fake ultrasound she tried to pass off as real. Her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, fear, and finally, resignation. Derek, she started. Don't, I said quietly. Don't insult both of us by trying to explain this away. She stared at the evidence of her betrayal, her hands shaking slightly. How long have you known? Long enough. The ultrasound switch, that was you? That was me. She looked up at me with something that might have been respect mixed with her fear. The counseling sessions? Fake. Though I'm sure Dr. Martinez would have some interesting observations about your performance. Tasha sank back onto the couch, the envelope spilling its contents across her lap. What do you want? She asked quietly. I want you to leave my house, I said. I want you to sign the divorce papers my attorney will be serving you tomorrow. And I want you to know that everyone, your family, our friends, your co-workers, will know exactly who you really are. Derek, please. Please what? Please don't expose the fact that you're a liar and a cheat. Please don't tell people you faked a pregnancy and a miscarriage to manipulate me. Please protect your reputation after you destroyed our marriage. She had no answer for that. Get out, I said simply. She gathered up the papers with trembling hands and stood up. For what it's worth, she said at the door, I really did love you once. No, I replied. If you had ever loved me, you couldn't have done what you did. After she left, I sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The divorce proceedings were swift and decisive. Tasha's attorney tried to negotiate, but Patricia had built such an airtight case that there was no room for maneuvering. Adultery, fraud, emotional abuse, the evidence was overwhelming. More importantly, the story began to spread through our community exactly as I'd intended. Tasha's family was devastated. Her mother called me crying, apologizing for her daughter's behavior, asking if there was any chance we could work things out. I thought I raised her better than this, Diane said through her tears. The fake pregnancy. Derek, how could she do something so cruel? I don't know, I said honestly. I thought I knew who she was, but I was wrong. Our church community reacted with shock and disappointment. Pastor Jenkins pulled me aside after Sunday service to express his support. I've been counseling couples for 20 years, he said, and I've never seen deception this calculated. You handled this with more grace than most men would have. I just wanted the truth to come out. I said, it has, and now you can heal. But the most satisfying confrontation came when I decided to visit Marcus's wife. Jennifer Marcus was a kindergarten teacher, a small woman with kind eyes who answered her door with a smile that faded when I introduced myself. You're Tasha's husband, she said, recognition dawning. I'm Tasha's ex-husband. I corrected, and I think we need to talk. I showed her everything. The photos, the messages, the timeline of the affair. I watched her face crumble as she realized her husband had been living a double life just like my wife. 2 years, she whispered, staring at a photo of Marcus and Tasha kissing outside a hotel. They were planning to be together for 2 years while he was coming home to me and our children every night. I'm sorry, I said. I know this is devastating. How did you find out? I told her the whole story. The suspicious behavior, the fake pregnancy, the switched ultrasound, the elaborate investigation. By the end, she was crying and laughing at the same time. You switched her ultrasound, she said incredulously. That's brilliant. Horrible, but brilliant. I wanted her to feel a fraction of the manipulation she'd put me through. Did it work? Oh, yes. She was genuinely panicked, genuinely devastated by the fake medical crisis. For a few days, she experienced real fear and uncertainty instead of just causing it. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm leaving him. Tonight, I'm taking the kids and we're going to my sister's. Good for you. Will you testify in my divorce proceedings if I need you to? Absolutely. That evening, both Marcus and Tasha learned that their secrets were no longer secret. Marcus came home to an empty house and divorce papers on the kitchen table. Tasha received a call from her supervisor informing her that she was being placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into her inappropriate relationship with Superior. Their carefully planned future together was crumbling before it could even begin. 6 months later, I was finally free. The divorce was finalized, the house was mine, and I'd successfully untangled my life from Tasha's web of lies. Tasha had been fired from her job and was working at a private tutoring center for half her previous salary. Marcus was paying hefty child support and alimony to Jennifer while trying to rebuild his career after being demoted and transferred to a different school district. They were still together, supposedly, but Patricia's sources suggested their relationship was strained. Turns out, when you build a relationship on lies and betrayal, it's hard to trust each other when the fantasy becomes reality. Karma has a way of working things out. Patricia told me during our final meeting, people who cheat with you will cheat on you. I wasn't interested in their problems anymore. I was focused on rebuilding my own life. Maya was proud of how I'd handled everything. I always thought Tasha was too good to be true, she admitted over dinner one night. But I never imagined she was capable of something this cruel. The fake pregnancy was the worst part, I said. Everything else I could have eventually forgiven, but to manipulate someone's desire to be a parent, to fake a miscarriage, that's unforgivable. You could have just confronted her when you first found the messages, Maya pointed out. I could have, but then she would have controlled the narrative, made herself the victim, made me the paranoid husband who drove her away. This way, everyone knows exactly who she is. Any regrets? I thought about it. No. She made her choices. I made mine. The only thing I regret is not seeing who she really was sooner. A year after my divorce was finalized, I was ready to start dating again. Cautiously, carefully, with the hard-earned wisdom of someone who'd learned not to take people at face value. I met Sarah at a bookstore, an English teacher with sharp wit and genuine laugh who didn't try too hard to impress me. Our first coffee date lasted 4 hours. Our second dinner date ended with a good night kiss that felt like coming home. I should probably tell you, I said on our third date, I have some trust issues. My ex-wife, well, let's just say she taught me that people aren't always who they seem to be. We all have baggage, Sarah said simply. The question is whether you're working through it or letting it define you. I'm working through it. Good. Because I like you, Derek Thompson. But I'm not going to spend our relationship paying for someone else's mistakes. Fair enough. 6 months later, when Sarah met my family at Maya's birthday party, my sister pulled me aside. She's good for you, Maya said, watching Sarah laugh at one of our uncle's terrible jokes. She's real. Yeah, I agreed. She is. That night, Sarah and I were cuddling on my couch, the same couch where Tasha had lied to me about being pregnant, where I confronted her with evidence of her betrayal. Can I ask you something? Sarah said, do you ever miss her? Your ex-wife, I mean, despite everything she did. I considered the question seriously. I miss who I thought she was. The woman I fell in love with, married, planned a future with. But that woman never really existed. She was just a character Tasha played when it suited her purposes,